Good morning, guys. Happy Valentine's Day. Max always messes that up. He had one job. Max is the only one of us with a date today. He's brought his on stream, obviously.
If he's here.
Yep.
He's shy, camera shy.
Yeah. Is that Badger?
It is indeed.
He have a date today?
Do a fuck, mate.
No, he doesn't.
Never.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. I see a handful of us in the chat already. I've got, I think, 11 people over here on my side. I'm not sure what's on the other one. Let's see. It says we got 8 total, so something's lying.
It was 14 a second ago.
Yeah, who knows? Anyways, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the charts. I gave a key level last night, 21,561. So anyone that says you can't trade CPI is, I think it was a pretty obvious move down into support. You had a lot there, and then just a lot of shorts that came in from what I can tell. I don't know if Max saw anything different, but looks like people were shorting in at the low, which is never a good idea. And yeah, you got a resulting move back up to some targets that we've been eyeballing for a while. And this is a pretty big inflection point for the chart. So I'm going to pull it up and we'll just jump right in. We are going to talk a little bit of SPX and DXY as well today. I'll be on Sin City Crypto this afternoon around noon for the for their CPI special that they're doing today with Crypto Blood. So it'll be a good day. Looks like Max has got his name up here, Satoshi's boyfriend. Makes sense. Yeah. All right.
How are you changing that? I had a good one.
You did. MIM's date. Yeah, but you've got a date and I don't third wheel it. So I went ahead and just left you on the Satoshi side of things. So let's go ahead and dive into the chart. Okay. So first things first, you can see we've come up to what the weekly pivots are here. You can see that this is the old previous week low as well. It's not relevant anymore. I just need to change it. I just had it marked for last week as we're not really using it much this week yet. And locally, what was it? It was the gold pocket, right? I believe if I can get this thing to turn on here. Well, maybe we'll just pull it by hand. So gold pocket, most recent high to low. If I can get my magnet to work, we're going to go to the 1 hour. Now let's check. Nope. And I swear I had it on this chart. Maybe it was on a different one. This is why I don't do YouTube charts versus regular ones. So this is your gold pocket just from the most recent high, so it's not like the major high that we put in at 24.2 and some change, but it is a local one. And it does come in a really nice inflection zone. This was prior support and resistance. It's that 6-month key level we've been talking about since we got up here at 22,407, been absolutely clutch. And so what we'd be looking at is seeing if we can reclaim this region of the chart. If so, we do have some fairly obvious targets. We can start looking back to the September high, obviously, which would be this local high we chose from right here at 22,810.50. And you could also take a look at it from a volume perspective and, just point blank, you can start mapping this out so that it's a prior range for the week. I have this marked on my day trading account, but not on this one, as I don't really use this chart to trade ever. You have this NPOC that's coming in up here, right? We'll go ahead and mark that out. And there you go, 22,908, which gives us this little zone between 22,810 and 22,9. And I would imagine that if we were looking at this for some sort of a range, like right here, right? So we broke into this region before falling out of it. You've got the overall point of control there. So should we break back above 22.4, there's a lot to say that we probably go fill that weekly NPOC closer to like $23,000. And then it becomes a game of, can it make the move above this? Because we know when we back test ranges, a lot of times we just go and back test the point of control. So inflection point is 22.4. And as long as we're living above that, pressure is on to this $22,800 to $23,000 zone. I'm going to give it a little bit more of a window than I probably should. And then you've got the value area high coming in up here at a local spot that we'd identified. I think it's just like some daily local highs up there at 23,245. So if price gets rejected here, we're just looking to trade it back down, guys. Trade it back down into this range. And if the November high is lost, as we've been talking about, you will be looking for a move down into this zone. However, you know, in our members update that I gave prior to Super Bowl Sunday, this was the scenario I spoke about where I said, if we lose this high, it's definitely no bueno. We're coming down for sure. However, if we come up here and we do something like this and we reclaim the high, I'm looking to run it all the way back to here and then potentially back to here, right? This is the bullish case. And if you took that trade on the long, you have to be locking in some profits. Now, last night we talked about a key level at 20, what was it? 21,561, I think, right here. So this is just a 4-hour breaker level. That's all I identified. It was right here. You can see that we've swept this low once, twice, 3 times, and came back for a 4th touch. It was very, very clean. I believe if you were to pull the local gold pocket as well, it was coming in that region. So you had some stuff there along with the value area low of your overall range that's developing here at the lows. So there was some stuff here to say that this was going to make for a decent long more than likely. Yeah, you can see it's just past the 0.5 into that 0.618. So you've got that for sure coming in there right here. Yeah, so very, very nice. Very technical levels that are given. And then it's just up to you guys to pull the trigger. I can't pull the trigger for you. You have to know that when you're coming into this level, you either wait for the low time frames to give you an entry, right? So we'll talk about this. Wait for the low time frames to give you this entry, which right here, you know, it may not have given you one from the chart standpoint. I'll let Max go over the order flow if it did. However, as you were coming back down, I imagine it found support obviously right here. Then you've moved back above the VWAP. And if you weren't long by that point, you know, that's where you could have triggered another long. Was just, okay, we're reclaiming the VWAP on a higher low. We've swept the lows. We had some heavy shorts that came into this region. I'm looking to try to run this back to the range high right here, the local high. And then I'm looking to run this up to the pivots. Okay. And we filled in that single print that's above us. So that's good. You know, not out of the woods yet. The CPI numbers that came in, we will talk about those. They came in a little hotter than expected, but not really that much further over it. I think core was right on. So core is good. I think what was higher was like services, you know, cost of living was higher, elevated, which I think is just like, you know, like utilities, stuff like that, energy. But overall, 6.4 versus 6.2 wasn't the end of the world. Markets seem to be taking it fairly well. So it seems like the print came in pretty close to where it needed to be, and the core data was good. So market trapped some shorts and is reacting accordingly. And one thing I want to note is that, you know, if you're looking at these two as overall ranges, and I'm going to get rid of this weekly range now that we no longer need it, right? You've got range 1 and range 2. You know, what could we do with this? We could easily classify these as separate ranges. Okay, so this is a range. This is a range. And what does this look like? It looks like a deviation. So should we find acceptance, we are looking to run it to this point of control. However, again, as long as we're holding on to these like local lows right here, I'm expecting to see this push higher. And if it does break out of this like 23,245, if you're being really, really cautious, I would look for a new high to be made. I would look to challenge the high here and maybe push into this 24/7, maybe even further. And as a trend goes, right, you would just have a higher low at that point. It would just be continuation of trend. And as you guys know, I'm still targeting the upper bands of this right here. If you've been tuning into these anyway, you've seen me post this. This is just a Fibonacci channel with some boxes that I randomly placed on there. They had nothing to do with time. And I'm looking for a complete move up to somewhere in the $27,000 range at some point. Maybe 26.5, in my opinion, I think is a good place that you'd have to be aware of. Obviously, we're not going to overlook 25.2, right? Not going to overlook 25.211, which is the local high. Also coincides with this local low. However, you know, when we finish this up, this was a single print that was closing, and there's another one that closes out at 26,505. It's one of the rare occasions that they did not both close together, as it is one giant one, but it was so large. It was one of those things where, you know, I don't know that I would let that single print dictate a, you know, because it came in at 23.1, I think was where it started, and it ran all the way to 26,505, just barely separated by one small node of volume. So to me, I look at that and I'm like, You probably can't trade the whole thing up. However, we are now getting that move. This is our yearly pivot. It's the area of the chart that we are targeting. And if you look at this from a channel standpoint, it's gone from the gold pocket to what? The 0.5, which is pretty clean. So we need to be basically on the lookout here for lower high watch, because if we do the opposite of what I just said, and I know this is a very messy chart, so I'm going to come back over to here. And we're going to use our polyline tool just to break this down as simple as possible for people today, right? The higher low. Okay, so this is another higher low. What we don't want to see is a lower high, right? And this is like 23.3 right here, but we don't want to see this, okay? This would be a big sign of weakness to me at that point. I'm not really looking for this to be played out, but this would give you a big move down back to this like 19, could even be as low as, in my opinion, back down to like 18,300, which is the local gold pocket. And this is how it will play out if that happens, because this is going to give you shades of like a harmonic structure at that point, right? Something like this, and you're going to be looking down, which would be, this is just a really poor man's butterfly at that point. I think actually you'd have to come up just a little bit for that right here to like 19.5, but that's the structure, the M structure I'm looking for. If we're going to see a formal rejection and see these lower prices, I think at this point, that's what you've got to be looking for. However, you also have to be aware that it does not have to reject here. So this is where it is going to be required that you guys are able to read the market accordingly, because if this isn't a rejection and it just does something like this, you now have the potential of doing this, right? We can start pricing in, a potential new target, right, of a new high, and we have to have those levels ready, which obviously we do. So I don't think I have much else on Bitcoin. We do have some action going on. So Max, if you're ready, I'm going to let you cover order flow before I get into the SPX and the DXY, as those are generally charts that are pretty high time frame and I can talk on for a while.
Sure, let's do it. Okay, so I actually don't see the shorts that you mentioned earlier, Magic. I don't know where you were looking, but I can't see them anywhere.
I just assumed that they were there, man. I just assumed we had heavy shorting down there, that we're shorting into the low.
You actually had the opposite. You had a lot of buying going on. Even in the initial drop down when you had the really fast move, you were getting some positions changing hands and even coming off it. And you got to know, this is all coming from the golden pockets. This is all coming from the golden pocket. And then you're getting a ton of buying imbalances here, but they're not super strong in that one. But you're getting buying coming off the golden pocket, getting a lot. And these ones here, they didn't really take price anywhere. So price came back down, tested them a little bit, probably made them sweat. If you're looking at entering here and being super aggressive, probably over leveraged, they're going to put a stop loss right here. Enter, put the stop loss just below the closest low, and they get stopped out again. Got stopped out, and then buyers came back into the price and continued to take us up. So you've had two options there. It's one of the things that you want to see when you're coming into specific levels is, if you're looking for a long, you want to see buyers come in and start to push the price in that direction. And you had two chances here to get in. So you really were gifted. Normally you're not given two chances, but you were really given two chances here. Buying your balances very strong on this one, and buying as you came into the low. So move up has been great. Now all week, I say all week, it's only Tuesday. What I've been saying since Sunday has been that I don't think that the low is currently in. However, I've given my reasons for it, and it's because every single low has had really minor volume and the open interest drop has not been that significant. This, however, that we had, an hour and a half ago, is significant. You've got 100 million volume there. That very well could be a significant low in my books. Very negative delta. The open interest at the time was much more negative. I think it was negative 13 million before you then got the buyback. So you've had the washout and you've had that volume spike of the liquidity getting tapped there. So it is important to note that is the case. However, I also am looking for this to be a more aggressive rejection. I don't think, well, I'm not going to say I don't think it's going to come up there, but I am looking for an aggressive rejection from this region of the charts. We've got the 0.382 here. You've got the value area low of the previous range, and we're currently struggling at the market structure lows. So, it's a very important area that if we do fall from here, chances are it's going to be much more aggressive than if we fall from here, from the point of control, which Magic was mentioning. So it's worth noting that, it can stall here, and well, it is, but it can reject here. And if it rejects here, it's going to be quite a bit worse, if you ask me, rather than breaking back in and then maybe finding some support here and then losing it. If we reject here, it's going to be a bit of a bloodbath. But I still do like the monthly point of control. I would like to get it tapped. However, right now, even though I'm looking at this region to potentially take a short, I'm not seeing any reason to. I've not got people shorting. You're still getting buyers coming into the market. So unless we do start to trap these traders here, it's you kind of trading against the trend, I guess. You've got strong buyers coming in, no one really shorting. Granted, there's sellers, but that's to be expected when we're hitting the resistance that we are. But until we start to put these guys underwater, really not too much to worry about. Where could you say that you're, probably going to start to panic a lot of traders? Probably the loss of 22,000 would be the safest bet, but you could also argue 22,100. I believe we've got some single prints in this move. We do indeed. So there's the single print. So I'd give it another half an hour. I'd give it till the end of 7:30 for my time, so another 10 minutes. And then I would, take more consideration in this and be looking at, if we do start to break back into this region, then, look for the harsh rejection. And by then, I'd imagine you'd see your shorts coming in, you'd see a lot less buying, and the traders are trapped at that point. So it's all in this region, which I'm kind of, this is as 22,178. But I'd give it another $100 or so just to be sure. But yeah, if you do start to lose this region, I am expecting the monthly pivot. I don't really think that there's going to be much resistance, considering we've wiped out both sides at this point. There's going to be no resistance in that little range that we've been having the last few days. So that is my analysis. I don't really have too much else to go on.
That's good.
I don't have much else to say.
Yeah, no, short, sweet, very good. Yeah, these weekly pivot area is going to be key. That 22.4 region to me has just absolutely been clutch. So, all right, let's get up some SPX and DXY, right? DXY is probably what everybody should be looking at, in my opinion. I think that's a little more relevant than the SPX at the moment. This thing is just range bound. So you've run into this macro resistance, the 2016-17 high, this local top right here. It's also a gold pocket. We've covered this quite a bit, both in the group and in these public live streams. So you can see that it did properly come down to what the daily demand right here from the prior range. Now, losing this on a wick basis is not the end of the world for this, in my opinion. However, if price comes down to this 102.21 level here, it's a 12-month level. So if you go out to the yearly time frame, which this chart's going to get real messy real quick, you can see that this is just going to be an absolutely key level. It has been for quite some time. We've actually been trading in it as a range right here for years. And I'll go ahead and mark it out just so you guys have it. And then I'll delete everything because it's getting ugly on this chart. This was your range, obviously, right? Between these three levels. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. And then you got expansion. So it looks like a back test. So it is going to be fairly important that if one is bullish on the dollar, which I know most of us don't want to be bullish on the dollar, it needs to hang on to this 102.21. I would at that point, I would think that you're probably going to make a new low on this thing if that's the case. So that would bode very well for Bitcoin and other risk on assets. We do have major time coming in for the SPX today. I say major time, but it's funny how these always line up with. I'm on the wrong chart. These always line up with news dates, but you can't change the fib time. So again, this is a pretty muddy chart right now, but hopefully you guys can see it just fine. You can see all the pivots. It was your high leg here, your low right here, your high here, pretty close to the local high here. And now you've got another one. This is your golden ratio, the 618 of this pull. And we're right at support. Okay. So if, this can't push through and it starts rolling over, I would expect this to be the pivot that we thought it was going to be. That doesn't mean it can't put in a higher low, much like it did before. However, things don't look as good once you've broken back into this. You've cleared out the Q3 naked point of control, which is a major target up by the Q1 low, and it would look like a series of lower highs still. So to me, I'm a little more cautiously bullish just because this is support, and this has been really strong resistance, and it's potentially being flipped into support right now. And if it does, I expect to see this gold pocket and this local high right here, right around 43.25.28 would be what I'd be targeting, right? So that would be the region of interest. You could literally put an alert on, the gap here if you wanted to. I think that would be a good place to have one, because that's going to give you ample time to kind of be aware that we're coming back into maybe fill this little gap that we left. And I gotta hit that every time. And then breaking that would all but certainly push you into this gold pocket. You've got a yearly pivot just above it. Mr. Anderson says, morning guys, CPI day volatility incoming, ? I think we got it already. CPI is already released and the volatility's kind of already happened. But this being the 618 pivot, if its price is breaking up, it doesn't have to, price doesn't have to reverse on every single pivot, guys. What it could be an indication of is continuation of a strong trend. It could be a very large impulse up to higher targets at times as well. So just be aware of that. Fib time's not meant to be perfect. It's just meant to let you know that this is going to be a day that there's probably going to either be some volatility or it's going to be coming into a key area a lot of times. And it's been the case on this pull quite a bit. So another thing to note is that if we were to pull this, from high to low, this is the value area low on that Q1 low as well in terms of price. If we were just to pull this from here to here, you'd find the value area lows here, and you'd be back in that range. I don't know if I have the extended version of this on, but we'll find out. Yeah, nope, it's right here, I believe is what we were looking for. I think that's the way I'd classified it. It's been a while. Nope, never mind. It's up here. The value area low is at the gold pocket. So I knew it was important, but here's the thing. You have to get above this level really to change any market structure on this asset. So let's get rid of everything that's on it and kind of talk about that and make sure that that is something everyone's aware of. So when we're looking at this, even from a daily time frame, to change market structure, you've got to start identifying these local highs here, right? So high 1, high 2, we now have high 3. And we have lower lows along the way. Now you've got a lower low again. You've made another lower high. However, you've made your first higher low, and it's confirmed as a higher low at this point because you've taken this high. So we have changed a little bit of market structure, and now losing this local high right here, which would also get us back below the Q1 pivot, probably back below our yearly pivot for the 2023 session, right? If we start losing this last local high that we're trying to make a higher high on, you're probably going to be targeting this local low back down here. And that begins to look more bearish because at the end of the day, this is only a higher high inside of this mini uptrend, right? That's all this is. We have to see this area of the chart taken. And if you're watching the traditional markets and you're watching the S&P 500, you would need to see this gold pocket and the yearly pivot from last year or the prior session. You'd want to see that claimed. And if so, I mean, you've got some arguments to be made that you could, be targeting things like your 2022, up until this point. At one point, was it the 2021 or 2022? Got my levels all mixed up this morning. There we go. The 2021 point of control is all the way up in this region, right? It's not untapped. However, it is the highest point of volume for this, this session. So to me, that does bear weight. And at that point, you're questioning, like, is this thing going to try to make a higher high, or do we remain range bound without breaking down to these lower levels and not breaking up to new highs for a longer extended period of time? So a sideways choppy market, which I think is most probable just looking at a time basis for all-time highs and stuff, I don't think that we'll be seeing all-time highs this year. So I would be looking at this as being fairly extended. Even if it breaks above this level, I'd be looking back towards this going, okay, I don't think we're going to make a new all-time high. I think it's possible we push a little higher here, but to me, it begins to become a de-risking event if I'm in that situation, right? So, and I'm looking to see if we start establishing a larger sideways range still. Sorry, 4:30 a.m. here was print positive. Print was actually bearish. Technically, it came in hotter than expected, but not by much. Core was on point, and I think energy was one of the energy and real estate, which is like I think cost of rents was up. That kind of drove it up. I think services might have ran a little hot too, but otherwise not too bad. The market seems to be pricing it in favorably. I checked to see what they're pricing in for the next rate hikes because that does change based on this information. It looks like 25 basis points is still expected for March. And then they're 50-50 on a rate hike in June. So, it's a coin flip looking out to the summer if we're going to get another rate hike, but the Fed expected rates has not changed either. It's somewhere between 5 and 5.25. They haven't raised that. They have said in the past that they are open to raising that if needed. So that would be a very interesting turn of events if that happens. But, as of right now, everything's kind of just expected as scheduled, which is 25 in March and then potentially another 25 coming in the summer. Today did not really give us anything that I'm aware of that's going to change that for right now. So that's all I'll really say on that. So hopefully that gets you filled in. But yeah, so again, we're just watching this to see if this confirms a high here. If so, by basically coming down and losing the yearly pivot in the quarter one low here, this little like zone, I would then be looking at this as probably fairly bearish. And I think Bitcoin would be responding kind of like how Max was saying, you would be coming back down into this local range here underneath this prior high, which kind of lines up with where the single print is a little bit. It's like general area. But, as he mentioned, you've already had a wipe of everyone in this range. So the target at that point does become the monthly pivot. And, the monthly pivot's been on our radar since we started this month. However, nothing gets there in a straight line. I can recall when we were looking at the monthly pivot on back in the summer, and we knew that they rarely don't hit 3 times in a row. Like I don't think it's ever happened in Bitcoin's history. And we had it occur in that fashion right here, where we hadn't seen a monthly pivot in quite some time. So we knew that more than probably we were going to come back to this level and actually strike the monthly pivot. And I don't remember, this is 8 months ago. Wow. Yeah, 23,148 was the pivot. That's what we were looking for when we made this range. And the reason why is because you did not tap the prior ones up here. And there's a lot of lines on this chart. So we're going to clean it up a little bit. So you can see your monthly pivot was actually front ran by a few days. I do not count that as struck because the average was not in play yet. And then right here as well. So having a third month where you didn't go back to your prior monthly average just seemed very unlikely. So now we've come down and we've struck the monthly pivot here later in the month after being above it. Again, right here, being above it, coming into resistance, back below it. We actually opened up beneath it on this dump right here and eventually did claim it before nuking below the next monthly pivot. And now you've got this one here and this one here. But the one positive thing about this is notice that these pivots are trending down. And for the first time, you've printed a higher monthly pivot. So your monthly average is coming up, which is to be expected. You've had a massive move up. Let's get rid of the VWAPs. Had a massive move up into the yearly VWAP, which is the VWAP from all of price action so far this year. So only about 6 weeks, but fairly relevant. What you'd want to see is this area continue to hold. If not, I would expect to come down into probably the December high, which is like 18,375. And it's more of a zone than anything, unfortunately. That's one of those things where it's hard to be exact there, but I would expect to see probably somewhere around like the mid 18s. If you start losing this monthly pivot and this support beneath you, right? So that would kind of destroy this, little mini uptrend, and you'd be looking to see if you're establishing a longer trend or if this is going to come down and maybe even make new lows after that, which would be kind of detrimental. But you do have your first monthly average above that. You do want to see that continue. We can actually look and see right now that halfway through the month, this is the average of price. So the projected new monthly average is actually just above the 21,199. It's up here above, like right around 22.5, I think. So that's good to see if you're looking at this in terms of a trend. However, we're only halfway through the month, and you can definitely come down and tap this still. So that would be the kind of like the bearish case. And just because you come down here doesn't mean the trend is over. We just need to see this as support, kind of, and play it just like we would any other level, because anything can happen at any time. We just need to be aware of what the implications of each of those movements are, right? That's it. I don't really have much else on this. I don't know if you guys have questions or anything that you want to toss in the chat. I have been watching some of the altcoins. Again, I've been really waiting on this level down here. Again, also the monthly pivot, right here. If not reached, we'll probably see that push into 141, maybe even a little bit higher on Matic. That's one of those things where that is what it is. But I'm not trying to catch the last eighth of a move. It's just not something that I do. QNT did give us an entry, though. If you were paying attention on QNT, I did post that we have come down. Even though it's front running my box, you are at the developing quarterly low here. So you're basically trading that back to the January VWAP close, and that's also going to be the current monthly pivot for this asset. So you do have like resistance right here that it does need to give up above about 136. If you get above 136, you're taking out these last daily local highs here. You've come down to a major range low. You do have a valid SFP. Now you're looking to trade this back up to probably 145 or so. But that's only if, this region of the chart can be pushed through. It's just like Bitcoin. Everything is going to be dependent on 22.4 for Bitcoin. On QNT, everything is dependent on 136 at this time. So if that level is lost, I expect to make this leg down into this box, and that'll be a place of quite a bit of interest to me. So let's look at some of the other ones. Let's see what Algo did. Algo also has not pushed into the monthly pivot. You've come back down to this 0.2308 region. You did front run it by a few pennies, not many, but that was kind of the area that, okay, if we lose this local low here, you can see that it's been swung fail several times. This would be something that if lost, you would expect to see this box in probably the 20-cent region. And that's where I get interested in price again. However, as of right now, this bounce is just doing what Bitcoin is doing, and it's bounced up, tagged its point of control, and done nothing of consequence. Getting back above the quarter one pivot, never a bad sign at 26 cents. And you can see it's been pretty good support and resistance. So if you did that, I would expect a challenge of the high, or at least up near it, somewhere in this region right here, around 29 cents. So 26 to 29 cents. That's like another 15% though. That's a good size move. And you would also be, again, reading price action saying, okay, what is price actually doing here? Is this going to push to the broader targets that I have for it around 30.79 up to 35 cents? Big window of resistance here. But I think that this is going to get things fairly well. It's just some statistical targets there. So I'll roll through a few of these because you've got me on the charts. Just the ones that I'm actively in mainly, just because it's just easiest for me. So been watching this one as well. You've tagged resistance, you're back at support, and the monthly pivot and lower daily levels are going to be coming in right here around 121. However, the larger, higher time frame support is right here, this kind of like midway point between this move, your B leg, so to speak, but also your local gold pocket is here. You've got the quarter one pivot here. This to me is an area of quite a bit of interest, and I would be interested in trading this area if given. So still waiting on my altcoin targets, not trying to jump the gun and get involved when it's just not necessary. So that's kind of one thing that does make me think that we see the monthly pivot on Bitcoin, is because altcoins, they don't look weak, but they have the targets for them are very clear, and the places I want to be interested in, and they're all lower. And that doesn't mean I'm going to see those. Maybe I don't, but I do know that until they do something and like a sign of strength, I'm not going to rule that out, because the market does not move linearly. It is literally a sideways up and down battle most of the time. It doesn't do things in like the prettiest fashion. So If it did, everyone would make a lot more money and patience wouldn't be required, right? That would be the ticket. And Polkadot's the last one. I haven't looked at the Polkadot chart in a while. So I actually did not have this one pulled up. So if I did, I probably would have been interested in at least looking at the developing quarter range low here with backed up by the monthly pivot with just taking a spot long into the point of control. And I bring this up as like intraday or like, multi-day trades, even though I think this occurred over 2 days. You can see that this is a 6% move. So, I mean, a 6% move is pretty decent, and you can do that with just spot. You don't need any leverage. That's, a lot of these assets that are bouncing from levels that we've got identified, you can day trade the alts and make quite a bit, in terms of percent gain. And then whatever you do with those gains is up to you. You can stack them because you're a big altcoin person. Me personally, I'm not. So I'm pretty selective on how I trade alts. But I usually roll that back into a trading portfolio to trade Bitcoin or acquire more of the asset, right? So kind of up to you there, whatever you want to be doing. I don't think I have anything else. I'm not trading AVAX, but we've looked at it frequently just because people are interested in it. And yeah, again, 1744 remains just an absolutely key level. You can see you've swung filled a level here officially, tagged your point of control for the developing year. I still think that if you lose this level, I'm really not interested until it's probably down here in like the 1580 region, maybe even a little bit lower. So that to me is still the area to kind of like hold for AVAX. And 1744 I knew was going to be a big area. It is your 6M1 for 2023, meaning the 6-month average, which is pretty important in my book. It's up there with the yearly, and your monthly pivot was coming in right on it. So you got what you should have expected. You should have expected that you were going to at least see some reaction out of this level, which you have. Now it needs to get continuation, because if it does not, I think you will see these lower valuations and see these targets that, be met over time. And so again, we're only looking at it in terms of where's the best opportunity for me in terms of risk management. So, intraday trades are one thing, but if I'm looking for swings on this, I'm still waiting for 1580. If that never comes, then I'm okay with not taking the trade. That's just how I do things with altcoins, especially. And Solana was the last one. Good old Sol. Yeah. So again, this was the zone given right here. You can also see it's your monthly pivot yet again. So kind of all the charts look the same, which isn't a bad thing. It kind of makes them all easier to trade. You can pick and choose which ones you want. But this one giving you something a little bit different. You can see that one, you're holding on to these local lows here, which is good. You've got the point of control up here at the value area high of this overall structure range. So this is more of a macro looking range in terms of like what could we be shaping up with all this price action, because this low is what I'm more interested in terms of volume analysis, because just what you saw leading up to FTX was, I wouldn't say it was manipulated, but I think a lot of those people are out of the market at this point. So it is one of those things where you kind of have to look at it and say, what are we doing with that information? So I just mark the key structures, and I don't really do much volume on the old stuff because I just don't think it's as relevant anymore. It's just a personal opinion. You guys can disagree with me, and I'm sure the charts will eventually disagree with me too. But if it doesn't break down from here and we don't see this high volume node down here, which is still the point of control, what you want to see is something like this. You want to see this B shape get underway, and this being by itself, you want to see this being like a P, right? You want to see a really big node starting to form right here. And excuse my artistry, it's not very good, but that is what you want to see. You don't want to see it entering down into this area of the chart. If you do, you're going to get a bounce at the value area low, and then you're probably going to see this point of control and gold pocket. And maybe you do want to see that. Maybe you took the short here off the resistance that was given at the quarter 2 and quarter 3 lows here. So if you're wanting to see that, this one has to reclaim. I would go as high as $24, basically. Yeah, 24. And if it can do that, I think that you could see some higher prices on this one, where it actually comes up and maybe takes this high on even just a wick basis, because I do think this is big resistance for the asset. However, if lost, again, targets are still this box down here. So that's why alts, the way just looking at them, I kind of get a little more, I wouldn't say bearish on the market, because I don't like to say that I'm ever bullish or bearish. It's already reacted, man. Market has already reacted. Stack crypto, low key.
Say you're bearish. Half the group just took a short.
Oh, well, good. But yeah, so it is one of those things where, when you're looking at alts, they're not leading indicators, but sometimes when you look at the overall market and I say, man, all the targets are getting front run, but we're not putting any sign of strength in either. You kind of have to say, okay, what bullish factors do I have? What bearish factors do I have? Does it make sense for me to adjust my game plan, or should I stick to it? As of right now, it doesn't make any sense for me to adjust it. So I'm just kind of going with the flow on that one. But SAP crypto low key, the market did react. Buyers entered the market, as Max said. I had heavy negative delta at the lows there, but it was on declining open interest. So I did take a look while he was doing his thing. You had a pretty hefty decline in OI, and it was coming down pretty quickly. A lot of negative delta in my book. And then the buy-up didn't show as strong initially on mine either. Actually, it was kind of weak initially, and then it did pick back up pretty well on that secondary low for me, at least on the volume chart. But I think CPI came in about as expected. Core was on point, which is important. Again, energy and real estate was not, but they weren't like grossly out of whack either. So I wouldn't say it was a nothing burger because we did get good volatility. I just think that if you had marked your levels as we talked about earlier, this 21,561 level was the level for us, or at least for me, that I was looking for. And I shared with the group last night, and you've basically just gone from the level up to a major target, which was our weekly pivots. So Bitcoin has done nothing of material yet in terms of reclaiming any type of a level. So you need to see this reclaim 22,407 still before you can really be excited about it. However, it was a good day trading opportunity for anyone that was available to take it. And now you've got a short here. So that's not a bad thing at all. Now, that's all I really got. Otherwise, we're going in circles, I feel like. Max, anything to add?
Go on then. I'll get my screen up again. Single print now closed. Thank you, T-Bone. But yeah, we're looking for a short in this area. You came down, what did we say, literally 20 minutes ago? You want to wait to see shorts really start to enter, the buying dry up, which it did. You've got sellers entering here, and then a lot of shorts entering here. So you can see where the market's effectively turned. It's gone from very bullish, a lot of green delta, a lot of buying taking place, a little bit of selling, but it didn't really push the price down. And then you had continued buying, but with no follow through. And then you've got the selling start to come in, heavy selling here, heavier selling here. And then you had the shorts enter as you re-entered the single print, which was back up here. As you re-entered there, that was your time to get into the trade with all your signals that you've got, all the entry triggers that you've got. The first take profit has already been hit, had to be the VWAP because it was also the previous day high. The exciting thing comes if you lose the VWAP. It really does, because you've got the PVAs, which you guys know I love. If we go to the 5 minute, you've got a PVA right down here at $21,600. Green PVA down there. Only a 5 minute one, granted, but I bet we've got another 15 as well. Not quite. But you know how they like to, come down and get closed. Yeah. So
I didn't even notice that thing down there. It didn't get back tested really at all. Didn't go into like the halfway mark or anything, which is usually it didn't fill like halfway before it went up. That's usually a more bullish sign, I think, isn't it? Where if they partially fill.
Yeah. On the PVA. Yeah. Yeah. It's already made its way back into it. So, it's not the most bullish sign, but you've got to wait and see if the VWAP is lost. If the VWAP is lost, you're back into effectively the day's range. If I put the marked on, please don't make it a mess. Where is? Oh God, it's so messy. Chart's looking like magics.
I know. I gotta clean up my YouTube folder so that I can put cleaner charts up, because I know it just ends up being an absolute mess when it's live in the time. So I try to be as vocally explicit as possible.
It cracks me up because we pick apart people in the group when they post messy charts, and when I zoom out on my high time frame, I'm like, oh my God. And then when you do it as well, it cracks me up. But yeah, if you lose the VWAP, really you're looking down to the daily open, daily point of control. You are effectively back in this day's range, but the VWAP was the resistance. So the support for now. if lost, you've got plenty of targets to the downside. What's that? Is that around another percentage? I think it's just under, actually. So, loss of this, it's going to look pretty bearish, but you're going to be tapping the daily open pretty fast after that. But yeah, hopefully everyone that took the trade has locked in profits. I don't know what else we can say. You've got some buy. You haven't really got any buys coming in. You have got some, but not many. But yeah, it comes into fact the view up. If that gets held, maybe we can come back up. That's why it's worth locking in the profits on the trade.
A couple questions I'm going to pull up. On a DCA case, do you find any days and times best to buy for pullbacks? I don't get into that too much. I usually just do my TA, mark my levels, and that's what I go with. I don't necessarily worry too much about what time of day or what day of the week it is, unless it's something like a weekend where futures are closed, in which case that doesn't often bode well if you're looking for like an actual low. Doesn't mean that it can't be a good average in price DCA wise. It just means there's always a chance it comes back to that price. And what times of day do you think are best for day trading and scalping? I think any of us in the group can answer this that are at least in my time zone, and including over in Dubai. We all like the New York session quite a bit. So for me, that's technically 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. I believe is the New York session, my time. Market does not open, however, until 8:30 Central Time for me. So that's when the SPX does open up. I've usually come to the charts before then, at least 30 minutes before, to mark out my levels and update my charts with any new data that's come in overnight. And I've usually got an idea of what I'm going to trade pretty quickly. If I'm day trading that day, especially, I've probably made my trades by noon and I'm out. I don't actually spend too much time at the computer at that point. I think it's a really unhealthy habit to sit there and burn yourself out. And I used to do it. Max can attest this. I used to trade like hundreds of times a month. I'd be posting like scalps all day long, and it wears on you after a while, So it is one of those things. Now I try to take fewer trades. I think for the month I'm up to like 40 trades. So I've actually traded quite a bit this month. So I say I'm trying to scale it back, but I'm finding the trades much easier. And it's just one of those things where, that's just how this month's shaped out. There will be some months where I might only trade 20 times. There's some months that I trade 50 plus times, it just depends on what the month is giving, but I generally try to trade the New York session, and I'm usually done by 11 or noon. I'm done by lunch. I'm not trading the afternoon session too much. I do keep alerts on just in case, because there are always levels that if they come into it, you want to be aware of it. And like alerts can go straight to your phone. So that you can see the level being hit. You can get to your trading station potentially, or pull it up if you're already there, like doing something else. But if you're not at your trading station, to me, I don't trade from my phone much. I don't like to. I think Max is the same way. We don't do this thing where we're not available to like view the data coming in to take a trade. So very rarely, if I'm not at my computer, will you find me trying to do any day trading. There's the occasional swing that I'll even tell them when I do it. I'll say I've preset for this level. I know we don't preset, but I'm going to preset for it. And those are generally really high confluence levels, though, like things that are like stupidly, going to get a reaction. Like I know what's there. But even then you have to have risk management, and you have to have a stop loss preset. It's usually a specific percentage or a, specific high or low that you've kind of found before that moment. So, your risk to reward's not going to be great right off the rip. However, you can always, come back in later. And if you can find a compounding position, I'm a big advocate of compounding. I don't like compounding on the exact same account. So what I mean by that is you have a secondary account that then once the trend is underway, let's say it hits a macro position and you're like, fuck, I wasn't at my trading station. I got an entry, but it wasn't the best. My stop loss is really far away, and it was a small position size because I had to have a wide stop to even have this put in. Well, that can happen, but don't go in and start manipulating that position and changing your entry and stop loss on that, because it's hard to calculate that in the moment. So it's better just to open a fresh trade with a fresh idea on the idea that your higher time frame idea is going to play out, right? So that's how I would do that for anyone that's ever wondering about compounding, right? You open up a whole another sub account, You go back to the chart, let's say it's Bitcoin, and I'm like, okay, I was going to long 21,561. I'd put a preset trade in. It was a really small percentage. I would love to trade more because my risk capital does allow for it. And you don't get that opportunity. Maybe you take a separate trade when it reclaims the VWAP, as we were talking about earlier, and so you didn't get the exact low, but now you have a new trade and a new risk, and you can still play the higher time frame idea that we were going to run up to this gold pocket and the weekly pivots, right? So you get to trade two accounts at that point. It's a little more complex, but it does allow you to have more exposure without increasing your risk, I guess, on the first position, right? Without ruining that trade, because then it's going to be really hard for you to track your statistics in terms of trades and say, was this a good trade? Where did I go wrong? Like, let's say the trade goes back on you and you did add to that position and it increased your entry price. And so you end up losing more money because you're using leverage. And, that's just a bad way to go about it. And that's a good way to blow up an account, is to begin manipulating those trades quite a bit. So a lot of times I just recommend fresh idea, fresh trade, and rock and roll. So that's it. Max looks like he wants to say one thing before we go. I think he's gonna say he's gonna pay his bills with clout today.
Bills are getting paid with clout. And if you go back to the members stream on Sunday, oof, good shit.
I'm gonna say I've got one in there where this was the exact scenario we were looking for. So it's one of those things where we'll I'm sure I could edit that and post it, and you guys could all be like, "Oh, look at this guy," But we don't do that too much, mainly because that's not what trading's about, guys. The guys who are going in and they're taking clips like that, like that's all marketing. I want you to understand what that is. That's marketing because they're trying to sell you on something, right? Now, my job is also to market the group, but not primarily. It's we come on here live every day. We give you guys straight facts about what's going on, and we tell you what we're looking to trade and why we're looking to trade it, like how you would find entries. There's not too many people that are doing that. Most of them get on there and talk very vaguely and then show you the result and say, good luck, unless you're one of our members, you're not going to win at this market. And that's just not true. So, we just try to offer a service that's, useful to you guys. It gives you a head start on all this stuff, but you can glean a lot of stuff from these lives, which is good. It's just, it's hard to glean everything. Like if you want it all in like one organized format, that's what we do, right? That's the perk of it. So otherwise, I don't have anything to add. Max looks like he's really zoned into his exo charts at the moment.
It was very close to a stop loss.
Did you make enough to take Badger on a date?
Yeah, he's having a steak tonight, my lad.
He's having a steak tonight. What are you going to eat? Dog food?
I'm having curry, mate. So ordered on the way.
You've got some good food out there. I'm jealous because out where I'm at, like we just don't have anything. I've got to cook for myself, so it's gonna be dinner with candles. Bitcoin candles with me tonight. That's about it.
I mean, it is an English curry. It's not proper
Indian.
Indian.
I don't know what the difference between an English curry and an Indian curry is, to be honest with you.
I wonder what's made it over there, whether it's English Indian curry or proper Indian curry.
I'd have to drive like 30 minutes to Lawrence to get any good actual curry. I think there's a place there that's supposed to be pretty good.
So would you have like biryani or would you have chicken tikka masala?
I don't know what the difference between either one are. I'm going to go with the chicken though. Because that's the only one I recognize.
You got to know, because if you don't know what a chicken tikka masala is, then that's like English curry, whereas biryani is like traditional Indian.
Yeah, I would definitely do
no such thing as English curry.
I would definitely do some homework if I was going to go to a restaurant like that, because you don't want to just walk in there and not know, unless you're just going to let one of the employees order for you and say, just make me whatever you like to eat, which I don't mind doing that either. But I like to try new foods. It's just, it's not as available out here.
And that's the difference, Danny. So Danny says masala is going to be spicy. That's the difference.
I'm into that.
English chicken tikka masala is like a dessert, effectively. It's very sweet.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather not have that one then.
It's good. It's good.
Good?
I'm having it. It's good.
I know that the only time I've ever been to an Indian restaurant, I think it was called buttered chicken or something, I think is what the menu said on it. That was pretty good. But
yeah, but that's not even like Indian, mate.
What got me was when I walked in, it was just the smell. Like I couldn't get over all the curry in the restaurant. The restaurant just smelled like BO. I was like, I got to get out of here. you know, like it is what it is. But the food was decent. So, yeah.
I'm just looking if there is a difference. There is definitely a difference. There is definitely a difference.
This
The
will be our
same thing,
after.
but you just customized it.
This will be our after analysis talk. It's always food.
Always food. Oh, steal your daughter's cookies.
Oh, yeah. I guess I could put a link in the description here. Danny said that's racist. Hit the likes. I was not meaning that it smelled because of Indian people. The curry is what smells. Like the food itself, like some cuisines out there.
She said BO, you knob.
I know what I said. It did. It smelled like BO. But yeah, no, my daughter's selling cookies. So I shilled the link in the group and some guys bought some. She sold 500 boxes individually outside of Boost last year. She's trying to top that. So that's pretty good. She's a pretty good salesperson. And I'll post the link in the description after the video's live. So you can go back in and you can, if you're watching this back, you can find a link to Girl Scout cookies. What it does is it allows you to order online and ship them directly to your house. I believe it's United States only. So if you're watching from out of the US, I'm sorry. But I've sold some to people in California now, Boston, Florida. I don't know where Chris is located, but I know he bought some as well. So get your Thin Mints. You got to get the Thin Mints. VWAP, decent little reaction.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, boys and girls. You know, one of our national athletes got banned because she tweeted that it must smell bad during Indian singers concert. Well, yeah, that's clearly racist. I just said that the restaurant smelled. I didn't say that the people smelled.
Anyway, I'm going to enjoy my curry tonight, so let's end it here.
All right. We'll see you guys later.